Good morning, children. Sai Ram. Children, welcome to the part 2 of History Chapter 3, the Delhi Sultanate. Now, in this part, we are going to learn about the movement of, the expansion of the Delhi Sultans from garrison towns to empire. That is the expansion of the Delhi Sultanate. Now, children, the control of Delhi Sultans during early 13th century generally was not beyond 45 garrison towns. I am sure you must have a question in mind. What do you actually understand by garrison town? So, the term garrison town means a fortified settlement with soldiers. So, they depended mainly upon the trade, tribute, or plunder for supplies without moving the hinterland of the cities. So, basically, this Delhi Sultan, they depended on the trade between two kingdoms. Tribute means as a gift given to them, or plunder means conquering. So, plunder for supplies without moving the hinterland. Now, what is hinterland? See, children, this is a picture of garrison. So, hinterland is the land that is adjacent to city or port that supply it with goods and services. Okay. Yeah. So, I was telling you about the expansion of Delhi Sultanate, right? So, to control the garrison towns from Delhi that were far off, like say Bengal, Sindh, which was extremely difficult, rebellion, war, bad weather would snap fragile communication routes to these farther places. The Delhi Sultan's authority was also challenged by Mongol invasions from Afghanistan and by governors who rebelled at any signs of the Sultan's weakness. Sultans barely survived these challenges. Delhi Sultanate expanded during the reign of Ghiyazuddin Balban, Alauddin Khalji, and Muhammad Tughlaq. Now, children, this is a picture this is a map actually, which is given in your textbook. It shows major cities captured by Shamsuddin Iltutmish. Yeah, so as I said, the earlier phase of Delhi Sultanate was limited to fortified towns. In 13th century, the control of Delhi Sultanate was limited to fortified towns occupied by garrisons. The Sultan did not control the hinterland of the cities and were therefore dependent upon trade, tribute, and plunders for supplies. Controlling garrison town in different regions like Bengal, Sindh from Delhi was difficult. Mongol invasions from Afghanistan and rebellion by governors placed big challenges in front of the Delhi Sultans. Members of rebellions occurred at this point of time. The Sultanate barely provided these challenges. Yes, so how did the expansion of Delhi Sultanate take place? The expansion of Delhi Sultanate took place during the reign of Ghiyazuddin Balban, Alauddin Khalji, and Muhammad Tughlaq. The expansion took place along the internal and external frontiers. Now, what is this internal frontiers and external frontiers? We will understand this first. The first set of the campaigns along the internal frontiers of the Sultanate aimed at consolidating the hinterlands of the garrison town. So, when this hinterland were consolidated, forests were cleared around in and around the Ganga Yamuna rivers. When forests were cleared, the hunter gatherers and pastoralists were expelled from their land. Land was bought under cultivation. New fortress and towns were established. So, basically, what this entire thing was the first step of expansion. Now, let us understand the second expansion. The second expansion occurred along the second frontier of Sultanate. Military expeditions into southern India started during Alauddin Khalji's rule, and it culminated with Muhammad Tughlaq. Culminated means it ended. So, it ended with Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. The Sultanate armies captured elephants, horses, and slaves and carried away precious metals in their campaign. So, by the end of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule, the armies of Delhi Sultanate had marched across large part of the subcontinent. They defeated rival armies and seized cities. The Sultanate collected taxes from peasantry and dispensed justice in its reign. Okay, children, so now let us have a closer look at the administration and consolidation under the Khaljis and the Tughlaqs. So, before we take a closer look at the administration under the Khaljis and the Tughlaqs, let us understand few terms. Bandagan. Bandagan were the slaves purchased for military services by Delhi Sultans. Iqta. Khalji and Tughlaqs appointed military commanders as governors of territories of varying sizes. These lands were called Iqtas. Mukti or Iqtidar. The holder of the Iqta was called Mukti or Iqtidar. Now, let us understand the administration and consolidation under the Khaljis and the Tughlaqs. Let us start with the law and order first. Like the earlier sultans, the Khaljis and Tughlaq kings appointed military commanders as governors of territories of different sizes. The territories were called Iqta and their holders were called Iqtidar or Muktis. The duty of the Muktis was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their Iqtas. Yes. So, in return for their duty, military services, the Muktis collected the revenues of their assignments as salary. They also paid their soldiers from these collected revenues. Control over Muktis was highly effective only if their office was non-inheritable and if they were assigned Iqta for a short time span and shifted regularly. These harsh conditions of service were under the rule of Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq. Accountants were appointed by the state to check the amount of revenue collected by the muktis. The muktis collected only the taxes prescribed by the state and kept the required number of soldiers. The next one is taxes and land revenue. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control. The right of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled and they were forced to pay taxes. The Sultan's administrators measured the land and kept careful accounts. Some of the old chieftains and landlords served as revenue collectors and assessors. Now let us see the types of taxes. There were three types of taxes. First, on cultivation called kharaj, and it was up to 50% of the peasants' produce. The next was on cattle, and the third one was on houses. So as we have discussed the types of taxes, which were of three types: on cultivation, on cattle, and on houses. Now we move on to the next one, that is rule in distant areas. Now children, it is important to note that large parts of the subcontinent remained outside the control of Delhi sultans. It was difficult to control distant areas like Bengal and southern India from Delhi. Even in the forested areas of the Gangetic plains, the Sultanate forces could not penetrate. Local chieftains established their rules in these regions. Rulers like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq could force their control, but for a very short time. The next one is attacks by Mongols. The Mongols under Genghis Khan invaded Transoxiana in northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after it. Mongol attacks on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. This forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed huge administrative challenge. So students, now let us have a look at Khalji's and Tughlaq's administration. The characteristics of Khalji's administration. Main characteristic of Alauddin Khalji's administration was that he raised a large standing army. Now, to feed the soldiers, 50% of the peasants' fields was fixed as tax. He also constructed a new garrison town, Siri. Prices of goods in Delhi was fixed and controlled by the king. Soldiers could satisfy their daily needs by their salaries. Alauddin successfully withstood the threat of Mongol invasions. Now let us understand how the characteristics of Tughlaq differs from that of Khalji. Muhammad Tughlaq raised a strong, large standing army. He established new capital of Daulatabad in south. To maintain the large armies, he levied additional taxes. He introduced token currency which were made out of cheap metal. and these cheap currencies could be imitated easily. The Sultanate in 15th and 16th centuries. Now, after the Tughlaqs, the Sayyid and the Lodi dynasties ruled from Delhi and Agra until 1526. By 1526, Jaunpur, Bengal, Malwa, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the entire South India had independent rulers who established flourishing states and prosperous capitals. This period saw the emergence of the new ruling groups like the Afghans and the Rajputs. In 16th century, some small but powerful and extremely well administered states also emerged. Sher Shah Suri was most powerful among such states. Now let us understand the rule of Sher Shah Suri. Sher Shah Suri ruled from 1540 to 1545. He started his career as a manager of a small territory for his uncle in Bihar and eventually challenged and defeated the Mughal Emperor Humayun. Sher Shah Suri captured Delhi and established his own dynasty. Although only he ruled for 15 years, he introduced an administration that borrowed elements from Alauddin Khalji and made them more efficient. His administration became the model followed by the great Emperor Akbar when he consolidated the Mughal Empire. So, children, with this I end this chapter. Please read the lesson thoroughly and complete the assignment that is given to you. Thank you. Goodbye and stay safe.